Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are actually watching this. Thanks for joining me in watching this video at Legacy Media and Computers. If you are joining me live tonight, April 14th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, a special thanks to you for joining me and taking the time out of your schedule to join me live. What we're going to discuss tonight, while I answer any retro computing questions you might have, is this: operating systems for retro IBM PCs and my opinion on the best operating system for the PC, XT, AT, and the PS2 Model 25 that was available for those units at the time, some modern storage options, and then we're going to actually go through installing DOS 3.3 onto an internal hard disk, the original 30 meg drive installed in the AT here, already low-level formatted. You're welcome to check out the video library that goes through on an original PC 5150 the low-level formatting process for a hard drive to prepare it to receive a file system and an operating system. Then after we get DOS 3.3 installed, we're going to do an unwrapping of a computer reset find, top view 1.0. And then, depending on your questions and what time it is in a live stream, we're going to continue the game of Leisure Genius Release of Monopoly that we started a little while ago. So I'm still set up in the kitchen here in the Peru location. Still working on the office/studio that has the Byron library for IBM systems preservation. That's going to be our main place down here in Peru, New York, that we're going to be shooting our videos as soon as we get that set up. So first things first, I have DOS 3.3 came on two 360K disk drives, 360K disks, or one 720K disk. That's what came in the IBM package. Version 3.3 was the first release of PC and I believe MS-DOS that actually supported the 3.5-inch 720K disk format. It might have supported 1.44, and going to have to verify that. Now, when the PC-AT came out, it came out with DOS 3.0, which supported the 1.2 meg 5.25-inch floppy disk right up here, and it wasn't aware of the 3.5-inch floppy drives yet. That didn't come until DOS 3.2, and even then it was a custom IBM version for the PC convertible that came out that year. So I have booted the first disk, which is the boot up and system files disk of DOS 3.3. The second disk was supplemental files. And of course, booting, it's going to ask you for the present day and time, and of course this is accurate. It is Thursday, 4/14/2022, and it is 7:03, give or take a second. Now, I do have an operating system on the AT already. We installed operating system 2, version 1.0, the version that didn't even have a GUI with it at first. But we're going to use the fdisk utility to delete the partition. And start all over again as if there was nothing on the hard drive and we just low-level formatted it. So date and time again. Now, up to DOS 4.0, with some very special exceptions to versions of DOS 3, I believe there was a version created by Digital Research. There was a special version put out by Compaq that you could install that onto a hard drive with a single partition size of greater than 32 megs. However, the IBM and Microsoft versions of DOS 3.3, the primary partition limit was 32 megs per partition, but that's not a problem in this case because the hard drive was only 30 megabytes. So we're going to tell it create a DOS partition. We're going to create a primary DOS partition, and in this case we're going to use the whole disk, use the maximum size, make it active, and we're going to restart one more time. So the partition has been made, but now we have to format the drive. So this command, format C:\S, will format the hard drive and then lay down the system files so that it can be a self-booting hard drive. So in our collection at LMC, we have an IBM PC 5150, the second revision of the original PC. We have the PC AT here, the 5170, and then in the other room here we have a couple, actually, IBM Personal System 2 Model 25s, the ones based on the 8086 processor. Now for the PC, the 5150 or a 5160, I prefer to use DOS 2.1 because DOS 2.1 has the least memory footprint. It uses the least amount of conventional memory and is period specific. You could use a later version that's better, like some people put DOS 5, put DOS 6, whatever versions, but me, I like to stay period specific with those computers. So DOS 2.1 for an original PC or an original XT. If you have an AT that doesn't have a 3.5-inch disk drive, well, in that case, it's DOS 3.0. Similar reasoning, a least memory footprint, uses conventional memory for that period. If you do have a 3.5-inch disk drive, whether you've got it set up as drive A or B, DOS 3.3 is where it's at because that's what you need at a minimum to support the 3.5-inch disk drive. Now, depending on the memory configuration of your AT, of course you can install whatever you want. You could install Xenix if you have the right configuration of an AT, Windows, OS 2, you name it. Now, for the PS2 Model 25, I also use DOS 3.3 because that's the operating system that was released with it. Now, big thing these days is, what do you use for permanent storage in these sort of retro computers? So if you've got a PC or an XT or an equivalent, 8-bit system unit, the homebrew XT IDE card, which has many different flavors, many different variations. My preference, I've had good experience, and this of course is not a paid advertisement, but Blue Lava Systems, which has a web presence on eBay. I bought an XT IDE card with a 64 meg flash card from them, relatively inexpensive, compared to some other solutions and other vendors. For the PS2 Model 25, works pretty well. I didn't have to do any configuration to the card, do anything special to the Model 25. There was able to format the compact flash card, install an operating system, and it boots up rather well. So for any 8-bit system, highly recommend the XT IDE. If you don't have an MFM or a DLL hard disk that works reliably, doesn't sound like a screaming banshee when you start it up for your 8-bit class machine, whether that be a PC, an XT, or a clone. Now for the AT, you've got a 16-bit controller card in here that IBM originally installed. It's I think it's a Western Digital version flavor IBM branded customized card. It supports A drive, B drive, and one or two MFM hard disks. Those are kind of getting difficult to come by in a working mode, or working state, that sound pretty good. Now you can always hear the ambient noise of this, and part of that ambient noise in this PCAT is the 30 meg hard drive hiding behind here. And if you've watched some of the other videos that I've done, whether live streams or weekly scheduled releases, really thought that hard drive was dead, but changed the orientation of it, ran some diagnostics, did some spin right on it, and so far, knock on wood, it's been happy. So what do you do in this case for internal storage on a 16-bit PC, assuming it's got ISA bus expansion slots in it? Any XT IDE controller should work, provided you want an older card that will support IDE hard drives that are less than 524 megs. And you might have some difficulty finding spinning rust of those geometry sizes, but what you can find are what's called disk-on modules. They're essentially the precursor of solid-state storage. They have an IDE interface you can plug into your IDE controller, very low power and obviously very low noise, but that's what you'd have to do in this case. Now, some people have installed XT IDEs in their PCATs and other 16-bit computers, but have had some difficulty, have had to do some strange things in the configurations. Some people have gotten it to work and some people have not. So that's what we have to say about permanent storage for PCs, XTs, and ATs. So now we get back to, let's install some DOS 3.3. We've created the partition, we've used fdisk on it, we formatted it, and this hard drive in here does have a bad spot on the surface, but thankfully it's only 10K of bad sectors, 80K used by the system. So a couple things that I like to do is, on the C drive, we're going to make the directory called DOS, and we're going to copy the contents. We're going to turn verify on so that the computer will verify reading and writing the files. We're going to copy all of the files off the two disks into the DOS folder. So mentioned, comes on two 5 1/4 inch 360K discs, or a single 720 3.5 inch disc. But for 360K, the first disc, of course, is the core DOS files, and the second disc is the supplemental files that IBM or Microsoft, depending on which flavor of DOS you have, put on the disk. So we'll put the second disk in there and we'll repeat the command. Perfect. So we'll take that disk out and we'll reboot the machine, boot right off of the hard drive. Don't mind me, just gonna have a little sip there. And of course, if there's no auto exec file, config sys file, oh sorry, no auto exec file, it's going to prompt you for the date and time. So one of the things I like to do is we're going to build the autoexec.bat. I'm not going to put anything in config sys right now, but we're going to reboot. This will be hopefully the last time we have to reboot. So there we go. It doesn't prompt for the date, doesn't prompt for the time, it pulls it from the system clock, and in this case it shows me the version of DOS that I've got on here. Although, you know what? I'm not going to change the boot up. I was going to have it say IBM Personal Computer DOS version 3.3 ready, but this is fine. So now let's get to the unwrapping. This is one of the copies of Top View that I picked up at Computer Reset. They actually had the different versions of them there. Because this version, as you see here, it doesn't say a version number, was version 1.0. They actually had several different releases of Top View. I did get a couple of the version 1.10. The creme de la creme, the gold nugget version, is 1.12, and that version had built-in drivers for the IBM PS2 line of mice, and super highly sought after. Now, deep down inside, I'm really kind of hoping that one of the boxes that I have that's 1.10, or sorry, yeah, 1.10, is actually 1.12, and IBM just didn't bother to reprint new binder sleeve covers for that release. So let's whoops, here I am scratching up stuff. Let's slice the plastic very carefully. Get it out. Of course, inside we've got a Top View application guide, another Top View application guide. Oh, okay. The smaller one is IBM applications. The much larger one is available from non-IBM sources. We have the actual documentation. A lot thinner than I remember. Maybe it did get thicker in the future releases. The quick reference, and then the two floppy drives, the program, and then the tutorial. So we'll go ahead and we'll cut open the still got that 40-year-old new smell. Get that put in the binder here. I'm going to put the smaller of the two because it's got the 3-hole punch, and kind of surprised IBM didn't punch that, but that's okay. Look at some of the destructions. You know, the license is on the back of the inside cover. You've got the registration card, the licensed program specification, and the warranty. IBM warrants. The media of the disks not defective. The program is properly recorded on the media, and the user's guide is substantially complete and correct. Alright, so let's see here. Top View is designed to operate in the following environment: IBM PC, PCXT, IBM Portable PC, or the personal computer AT. Need to have at least 256K to 640K of random access memory, 2 double-sided, double-density disk drives, or 1 disk drive and a fixed disk, the monochrome display, printer adapter, color display, IBM ADA matrix, different sorts of printers. Don't have a mouse, so hopefully that's optional. Go through and anything significant. On the other page, no, talks about the IBM 3270 personal computer models 4 and 6 and the adapters that you need for that. Okay, a mouse is recommended but is not required, and as of the first version, these are the 4 mice that would work. A Microsoft mouse, model 037099 parallel interface, or a Microsoft mouse 039099 serial interface, or PC mouse by Mouse Systems, part number 900120-214, the serial interface, or Vision mouse, part number 69910-1011, serial interface. And of course IBM goes through the usual other stuff might work, but we're not going to help you or be responsible for what happens with that stuff. Okay, so let's see, getting started. 2.1. Okay. We're not using a mouse, so there's no need to worry about having the mouse properly installed. And it says, if you have not already installed TopView on your fixed disk, go to the Appendix C, copying TopView before starting the setup procedure. So let's see, if we go down to Appendix C, very small appendix, it's only 3 or 4 pages. Of course, it highly suggests that you back up the disk. Maybe we should. Maybe we should. And who wants to take bets that this will end up being like our Microsoft Word installation video we did a few months back, where we get halfway through the install and like, oops, we don't want to permanently write on the original media, have to back up and start again. Well, just following the instructions, it kind of says put TopView in your and boot off of it. Well, Well, maybe not. Okay. Making a liar out of me. Well, that's why. Okay. Not a big problem. So, one thing I got to point out, and a lot of um, IT pros, tech enthusiasts, and even IBM and other hardware manufacturers have said, if you ugh, if you format or write to a 360K disk in a 1.2 meg drive, the ability to successfully and reliably read that disk in a 360K only drive later on may be questionable. So, want to preface that up front, and I do have in the other room. I could have made a copy of this, but I'm not going to. We'll just copy it here, and I'll copy it again later on a true 360K drive. Okay. Well. Well, that might be a problem because format A. Mm, it's going to be difficult. So let's see. Um, okay. So the format A/4 is what formats the low density disk in a high density drive. Great. I'm just going to format it one more time for good measure. Okay. So the version of top view that was actually in this binder was 1.01. Yes, I know, it won't focus. Okay, format another. No, not right now. Just copy A to A. Nope, we're not going to copy another disk. We're going to go back to the A drive and that's kind of unfortunate. It didn't do. Didn't do what we wanted. Yep. Turn your computer on. Yep. Insert the top view to set your current drive and directory to the root directory type D. Yep. Oh, well, that's probably why, because I did not follow the instructions closely, because it said reboot. Did that, insert the top view disk in drive A. Of course we did that. We did that. We are on the root. There we go. very good. Now, one of the other things I just noticed in the instructions is on the second top view disc, which is the tutorial, there's supposed to be some other programs in there that can be copied over to the hard drive. Hey BBC, how are you? If you're still interested later, we're going to finish some of our Monopoly game, hopefully if there's enough time before 8 o'clock. But where we are right now is we've reformatted our hard drive, we've installed DOS 3.3, and now we are installing Top View version 1.01. Okay, so whoops. I traded keyboards out, and some of the keys stick a little bit. Pointing devices. That we're going to use the keyboard. We do have a color graphics display. Let's start top view. Well, I don't have a mouse for this thing, and I really haven't read a whole lot about how you use using the keyboard pointing device. Okay. If you are using the keyboard as your pointing device, the arrow keys move the pointer, and the Alt, Home, and Page Up keys perform top view operations. Well, when you think about it, other than looking pretty, you probably could do anything you wanted. You know, you could trade stocks, check email, order stuff online in a text environment. Alt. Oh, okay. So home is enter. I'm just kind of rummaging through the pages real quick on how to make menu selections. Page up is to I think you're going to actually have to go through the tutorial. Top view menu key. Top view. Oh, well, there we go. Okay, so control key to toggle in and out of top view mode. So Microsoft had just released Windows 1.0, or they were getting ready to. Other vendors were looking at getting into some sort of multitasking environment. Digital Research had something called GEM, Graphic Environment Manager. GeoWorks in Berkeley, California had PC Geos. Geos. They had it for Commodore 64, 128, PC, even had it for Apple II. VisiCalc or Vision, the makers of VisiCalc had something called Vision. And IBM's answer was this. It's called Top View. And essentially it was kind of like, it was DOS Shell before DOS Shell was available. Home page up. Okay. So you would add, let me see. Okay, so I actually have DOS services started a couple of times. Okay, and I see what's going on now. Home page up, home. Just curious, all right, how do you quit without restarting the whole machine? Okay, quit ends a program. I know, Sergio has been kind of busy with a lot of things, but I do have in the next shipment, whenever that's ready to be sent to me, we're going to have a lot of software, power cords, some mice for this. Adding the calculator. Let's see. Programs. Okay. Select program, select add a program to menu. The calculator program on let's see. Well, that's not very... the calculator in here is not super useful. I mean, it is, but you can't use the numeric keypad with it. You have to use the 10 key on top of your keyboard. Probably the AT might have just come out when this software was released. So... All right, so now, yeah, I know, no scientific functions either. So, okay, we're done with top view. So at the beginning of tonight's live stream, we did kind of like an unwrapping. So if you have time later, go back and check it out. But so we did unwrap this. This is version 1.01 of top view, and we talked about how from 1.0 to 1.12, which is the 1.12 is the golden nugget, that had mouse drivers built in for the IBM PS2, so you could use a PS2 mouse with top view without having any additional software installed, which I thought would have been really neat. And we'll unwrap. I do have I think two boxed versions of 1.10, and I'm really hoping that because 1.10 and 1.12 were at the end of IBM's top view life, that if they put 1.12, yeah, this version is 1984. Like if we exit and then go back to, oh boy. Well, that's an interesting bug just discovered. When you quit top view, you don't get control of your 101 key keyboard back. Whoops. On TV for top view. Yeah, 1984. Yeah, that must be a bug. And I don't know if it's, huh. So we're always learning something new on legacy media and computers that we didn't know before, or at least I didn't. Actually was trying out some Carmen Sandiego last week. That's an image file I was trying to make. This should be our Monopoly game. There we are. Got about 10 minutes left. I hope you'll stick around with me for those 10 minutes. We'll get a little bit of more Monopoly in. Do you have any retro computing questions for me? Awesome, thank you. I'm assuming you would like me to roll the dice. Oh, I might as well pay. Oh, we'll roll again. Well, Sean didn't see that coming. Okay, final round before we save. 10%. Yeah. Save some of my money. Well, still it looks like David, IBM Museums, still leading this game. I'm going to do one thing before we do call it quits tonight. Save a little bit of time when we're shutting down our vintage rigs is if you do have a copy of an advanced diagnostic disc. Deformat, diags, desetup, nope. Shutdown. Well, I've been having, I might as well tell you, for those who don't know and are watching later on, is I work in information technology. I used to work in supporting IT systems in education, but now I support IT systems in healthcare, and sometimes it involves traveling. So I expect to be back in town tomorrow afternoon, evening. And if I am, we'll do another live stream tomorrow. We'll do something else, play Monopoly in it after we go through our retro bit of it, or maybe some Carmen Sandiego. But no guarantee I'll be back in time. So I wanted to live stream tonight, just in case I'm not back tomorrow night by the regular time. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. I've never seen that before. That's pretty neat. Even Control Alt Delete doesn't bring you back from this. Cool. That's very cool. So, thank you BBC 600 for joining me in the live stream, and for those of you who are watching not live, thanks for watching the video. Hope you make sure that your vintage gear is always surge protected. You prevent your CRTs from getting some burn in. And if you're still got I might be able to find some vintage healthcare. Not sure if I will, but I'll ask around the office. And if you're still lucky enough to have retro vintage spinning rust, keep that stuff going as long as you can by always parking your heads.